Hi guys, this is topic 6.2. We're going to kind of divide polyatomics into a couple of days just so it's not an overly long note session and things like that. So I'm just going to work with you real quick on how to cross charges with polyatomics because we have a different set of rules than we kind of saw before. So to start out, we have the same idea going where things are going to be ionic, meaning we have a cation, anion, but we're no longer working with just monatomic ions. So a cation in some instances can contain more than one element. And today in the notes that we're going to work, we have these three examples here. These are called polyatomics. We'll get into more of what they're called and things like that later on. Today we're just working on charges. So when we get a list of these polyatomics, they also are anions. So the pattern follows the same. So what again I'm going to do here is show you how to cross charges. So here we have hydrogen. Hydrogen's a +1. And we have CN, which is actually called cyanide. We can see that it's made out of two elements because both letters are uppercase, and it has a -1 charge. So where we left off with topic 6.1 is that from here you would cross down charges. So this one's going to look very similar to what we did before because we're just bringing down a 1 and a 1. So it just becomes HCN. Now in the next example, we have hydrogen +1 with, this is called chromate. It contains chromium and oxygen. And the overall charge of this ion is a -2. So again, where we left off is we're to the point that we cross down. So when we cross this down, we are going to bring down a 2 to the hydrogen, and CrO4 is just getting the 1. We did talk about simplification, and so where we had something like Ca2O2, we were able to simplify that because all of the subscripts were divisible. Now here we have 2 hydrogens, 1 chromium, and 4 oxygens. So we cannot go through simplification. You never change the formula of a polyatomic. You only simplify the subscripts that arise from charges. So the 1 and the 2 don't simplify. Last example then here with hydrogen is we have H+1. Phosphate is PO4 -3. Again, we're crossing down. So when we do that cross down method, we're bringing down a 3. That is a terrible arrow. We're bringing down a 3 to the hydrogen. And PO4 is getting a 1. So in this particular row, nothing new has really changed in how we write our final formula. In this next row, it's going to be the same. Where we are now crossing charges with polyatomics, but we're going to see that new rule come into play. So in this first example, we have Mg +2 combining with Cn -1. So like before, we're going to cross down. So in this instance, we're bringing a 1 to the Mg, so nothing's changed there. Now, when we cross down to the Cn, we're bringing down a 2. So give me just 1 second to explain before you write down your final answer. When I write it like this is telling me I have 1 magnesium, 1 carbon, and 2 nitrogens. This is not correct because this 2 has to apply to the entire polyatomic. So when you are introducing a new subscript that is applying to a polyatomic, you are going to put that polyatomic inside parentheses and that new subscript due to charge outside of it. That way that 2 distributes in and applies to both the carbon and the nitrogen. So this is the correct formula, including the parentheses. So here in this next example, we have Mg +2, and we have CrO4 -2. Going through the process of crossing down, we get Mg 2, CrO4 2. Notice that, yes, I brought down a new subscript, so I put my polyatomic in parentheses. Now, you may have picked up on this, especially after our first lesson, is that these charges really do cancel. So what I'm going to do is simplify the subscripts that showed up from charges. That means the CrO4 is going to go back to having just one of them. So no parentheses are then needed. and it's just MgCrO4. So again, if you skipped this step here, that is just fine if you are recognizing that pattern. So last example for the notes, we have Mg still with a +2, combining with PO4 with a -3. So in this instance, we are now bringing down subscripts to both the cation and anion. The cation, the magnesium, is going to receive a subscript of 3. It does not need parentheses because it is not a polyatomic. It's a monatomic ion. So that 3 applies to the one element that's there. Now, the PO4, that's a polyatomic. It is getting a new subscript of 2. That is where you then place the polyatomic with all its elements and all appropriate subscripts, so like that 4 on the oxygen, and the subscript due to charge on the outside. So here's just a few practice problems working on how to cross charges with polyatomics. I just combined the notes and the homework all into one page. So all you need to do is just kind of do some quick practice with making sure you're comfortable with how to cross charges. So when we get to the point of doing names and formulas with polyatomics, you're set up to be successful.